In this video, I am giving you my thoughts on the new Black Panther trailer. What is up, YouTube? It's Josh. This is the Den of Nerds, and wow, that Black Panther trailer just dropped yesterday all over the interwebs. I got a chance to see it several times, do a little bit of research, watch some things about it, and I gotta be honest, it was fantastic. I think it's a really, really interesting trailer. This movie is an interesting movie because here's the thing. I love Black Panther. I think T'Challa's awesome. T'Chaka's awesome. I've seen him in a lot of different forms of media. I've read a lot of these different runs of him in the comics, and I really like him. The problem is, like, it's definitely a problem, is that the casual movie-going audience might not know anything about him other than what we established in Civil War. And the average movie going on, it's at least in America. You know, it's funny. I actually don't even know the demographics exactly, but it's probably a perception of mine that the majority of the audience is going to be white. So when you have this kind of a movie, and there are other things too going on, but on the business end, it's a totally new kind of a concept, right? It's essentially Wakanda, and where the Black Panther is from in their culture is that they are incredibly advanced to an almost alien level of technology. They're like Asgard sitting hidden on Earth. They're incredibly powerful and technologically advanced, but they are also tribal. They are also tribal and simple, I guess you could say. And so this presents a problem in itself, but basically they need to take that kind of a concept, and it's all black. It's an African nation, and they need to be able to introduce that to majority white men. Now, like I said, they have a couple things going for them. Comics. I mean, I'm a white male, and I absolutely love Black Panther, and so I'm super excited for this film. And I will, in my spheres of influence or whatever, explain to people why it's so cool. And on this channel, I'll explain why it's so cool. But the other thing they have going for them is it's Marvel. So Marvel is what, like 15 films deep? Somebody told me this the other day, and it really kind of blew me away. But there are people alive right now that the Marvel Cinematic Universe has been the majority of their lives. It's been a thing. And that's crazy to me, but that's how long they've been doing this. So Marvel has done an incredible job of creating this brand recognition and this brand trust. And so now they can do things like Doctor Strange. Now they can do things like Black Panther. Now they can do things like Miss Marvel because they've paid their dues, so to speak. But I say all of this to mention that it is not a mistake that a trailer for Black Panther opens with two white guys, two British white guys, by the way, and incredible actors in their own right. Absolutely incredible. This is actually not the first time that these two have had a scene together in cinema. Before, the Andy Serkis was a CGI schmeagle. So, I mean, this is pretty cool for a number of different reasons. But so they intro us with these two British white guys, right? And Ulysses S. Claw, major Black Panther villain, so very cool to see him at the front of this. He obviously does not have his arm anymore, and they're talking about Wakanda. I love the framing device of this trailer. I think it's very, very well done, and I think that they spent no small amount of time getting it together. But so Freeman is talking about how it's a perceived third world country, and Claw is explaining that that's all a front. Now, I find this super interesting because, at least in my understanding of the comics, Wakanda is a completely hidden city that some people know about that's incredibly advanced, but it's definitely like kind of Zionistic. They separate themselves from the rest of the world. I remember T'Challa's father saying one time, to give this kind of technology to the West would be immoral, because it would be like giving a loaded gun to a child. And I think that's a really cool, like, sentiment, right? Like, they're so advanced, incredibly advanced. They actually house in the Infinity event, they have gems, at least one of the gems in Wakanda. And Thanos himself sends his army into Wakanda, and it's a very good battle. It's crazy. It's very, very advanced. Also, Wakanda fights the Atlanteans in Avengers vs. X-Men. Wakanda, major player. A huge source for our arsenal against Thanos, possibly in Infinity War, which is really cool. But they talk about how in the cinematic universe, Wakanda is known, which obviously we know it's known because of Civil War. But apparently it is known as just a third world country. I find this fascinating. I find this a very interesting way to tell this story. So essentially, Wakanda exists, but nobody knows that it's really El Dorado. That is so cool. I think that's a very interesting way to do it. So they are bringing you in. Claw is the only one who's been there. They show the Black Panther fighting off these poachers or whatever they are, these travelers in Africa. It's very, very cool. There's a lot of going to be interesting, like, social contextual things here, because here's the bottom line, guys. If Wakanda is this advanced and has the ability to improve the lives of a lot of people in Africa, and we know that things for a lot of countries in Africa is very dire and not good, man, what's their excuse? What is their excuse for leaving their brothers and sisters helpless, defenseless, to the will of the world, as it were? That's interesting. I really hope that gets explored. If I was African and I find out about Wakanda, which, let's be honest, a lot of people will not find out about Wakanda. It's going to stay a secret majorly. It would be this like kind of unspoken thing. But if I was an African and I knew about that, I'd be fucking pissed. I'd be like, wait, what do you mean? The West is coming in here and mining conflict minerals. Warlords are taking control of these mines every other week and doing horrific things to establish their dominance. And you've had spaceships a couple miles up the street. You're not sharing any of that? Well, I hate you. That's what I'd be like, for sure. You have all sorts of cool things in the mythology that they're introducing here. The wives of the Black Panther, the Dora Milaje, I believe is what they're called. These warriors, which are incredibly badass. You have Forrest Whitaker, who is playing a friend of T'Chaka. Also really cool thing. So you hear T'Chaka's voice talking to his son the whole time, and this could be a flashback, but guys, it could be a Force Ghost thing too. One of the really interesting things of the Black Panther mythology is that everyone who has been a Black Panther in the City of the Dead can commune with the current Black Panther. He has access to all of his ancestors, everyone who's ever worn the mantle, and that's fucking dope. So I'm hoping we get some Black Panther Force Ghosts in this movie. That would be amazing. Honestly, my favorite version or run with Black Panther is the Jonathan Hickman's Secret Avengers, or New Avengers rather, run, where he is a part of the Illuminati. And you've probably heard me say in videos, or maybe not, because I haven't done a lot of comic book videos recently, but I'd love for them to establish the Illuminati in the MCU. I think it's a huge deal, and I'd love for T'Challa to be a part of that. So that whole run was very interesting, but the way they explored the mythology in Wakanda was so interesting, and at that point things are kind of divided. They're kind of being put back together. It's a very, very interesting dynamic over there. I think they did a good job of showing that. They, of course, show Michael B. Jordan as Eric Killmonger. He's going to be essentially one of the main villains, if not the main villain, and he has connections to Ulysses S. Claw. Actually, from what I understand, his father, Michael B. Jordan's father, was forced to work with Claw to help them, like, into the city or something, probably to steal the vibranium. Like, they'll probably put it as a through line so that it's very easy to understand. But essentially, he gets banished because of this, because of being forced to work with them. Apparently, you should have just died. But more honorable for you to just die than for you to betray your people, which I guess makes sense. But Eric Killmonger goes and studies in America, and he learns about his culture and everything, but he's also very intelligent, westernized, a good person in combat. He's very athletic and, has been trained in the same ways that Black Panther has been trained in. And so it could be really cool to see them facing off and a city divided, right? I'm assuming not everyone's just going to be cool with the young king. I mean, that would make for pretty boring subplots. I think people are going to have a problem with T'Challa. And like his father is telling him, it's hard to be a good man and be a good king. And I think that that's the crux of the conflict in this movie, although there's going to be a lot of external conflict because it's comic books, it's bombastic, it's cool. I think at the end of the day, we're still exploring whether or not Boseman is worthy of being a king and if he's ready to be a king. His turn at the end of Civil War was incredible. I was like, finally, that's the T'Challa I know. By the way, T'Challa, incredibly moral guy. He is so moral. He should be the moral compass of the Avengers and of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So much so that one of the craziest moments in the new Avengers run that I was just describing is when Captain America is talking to T'Challa about not crossing a proverbial line, not building some kind of super weapon or whatever, and finding a more peaceful way to do things. And T'Challa lies to him and tells him that he'll get his back. And then in the middle of this meeting, Captain America's pleading to the Illuminati not to do all kinds of Illuminati stuff. And he says, "Don't you agree, T'Challa?" And T'Challa says, "No." And I was like, oh my God, that's super out of character because T'Challa's a great person. So this will be very interesting. I'm excited to see all of that. Overall, I'll try to wrap up my thoughts here because I'm rambling, I think, a little bit. But I'm very excited for this movie. I think they did a great job with this trailer. If you watch this and you're not excited for Black Panther, I think that you're lying to yourself or you don't have a pulse or something. Because this looks dope. The music was incredible. I was like, this is very cool. It's a hip-hop thing, but it's not like Americanized hip-hop. Actually feels a little London hip-hop to me, a little England hip-hop. This is a foreign movie. Here's the thing, but the difference between someone like Luke Cage and someone like T'Challa is that T'Challa, they are Zionistic, like I've said before. They are an African nation. They're elitist in a lot of different ways. That's an interesting way of depicting African culture. They have had kings in the past. I want to see what that looks like. Somebody like Luke Cage he's American. So he's African American, and that's a completely different culture than African. And so I'm really interested to see how this is explored. And, you know, look, like I said, this is going to be very challenging. There's mythology here. There's racial lines that they have to cross. There's all sorts of stuff that's going to be tough. If anybody can do it, it's Kevin Feige and his team. Ryan Coogler this is a very hard movie to make. I assume that he knew a little bit what he was getting into, but I also assume that, man, this thing probably was way harder to do than he thought. This trailer looks fantastic. Congratulations to the whole team. Everybody that worked on this movie probably gave it their all, except for that one slacker, Greg. Fuck you, Greg. You almost ruined the movie, but it didn't happen. And so I'm personally really excited. I hope everybody else is as well. I'm going to leave it there. This is not an official breakdown. Just wanted to give you my thoughts about it because this is kind of a big deal in the nerdy world. So I wanted to talk about it. Subscribe to the channel, you motherfuckers. Subscribe to this channel if you like the kind of content. I didn't mean to yell at you. But subscribe to the channel if you want to. We do a lot of comic book content, video game content, and Star Wars content. So if you like that, come hang out with us more. We like chatting about these things. Like this video if you would be so very kind, you motherfuckers, because it does help us out a lot, actually. It's algorithm bullshit, but it really does help us out. As I always say, I hope you are having an awesome and nerdy day. See ya!